to have with us Saroni Roy and Lorena Julio to share their views. But before they start, some ground rules. Each speaker will get 12 minutes to speak. At the 11th minute, I will ring a bell to alert you to wrap up. And if at the end we have some time, we will take some questions. So without any delay, let me introduce my first speaker. She's an actor, a model, a social entrepreneur, and a winner of many awards. Her aim is to create a more peaceful and an inclusive world. Let me present Saroni Roy, talking about promoting a culture of peace and non-violence through education. Saroni.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Anjana, for that wonderful introduction. So promoting a culture of peace and non-violence through education, of course, it's a massive topic which cannot be completed or talked about only in 12 minutes, leave alone maybe not even hours, months, and years are going to be enough for that. But I'm going to not get into the nuts and bolts of non-violence, what it means, or what the absence of peace would mean, absence of violence would mean, or war or conflict resolution would mean. I'm just here to sort of simplify it, maybe, for everyone to sort of think about it. It's some food for thought for everyone, I think. So I would touch upon this in terms of inward looking and also outward looking for attaining peace. Yeah. So one thing that is for sure that we all kind of understand and have heard of is low self-esteem has often been linked to violent behavior, school dropout rates, suicide, and low academic achievement as well. So peace and non-violence are, of course, such subjects that are not quite easy to be placed inside within the academic curriculum. Yes, definitely we want to add them in the academic curriculum of every school, every college, every university, and in every country, at every strata, socioeconomic strata, for students and everyone to sort of understand what a peaceful world would mean. In itself, by itself, then teachers often face it difficult to sort of, they are great with teaching geography or English or let's say mathematics or science or physics or chemistry because they are specialists and experts in that. But peace is more like a behavioral change we're talking about, isn't it? So a behavioral change is lot to do with what's in our mind, our psychology. Our behavioral change cannot happen by just reading books. It cannot happen because what we're going to do is once we have added these subjects, let's say I'm doing mathematics and science and physics and chemistry, and I add moral science or peace education in the curriculum, but what happens about the applicability? What happens to a student, a child, who's probably learning so much about nonviolence and peace in school, but he goes back home and experiences domestic violence? So one day he will either give up on the situation and maybe take his own life, commit suicide, or the other reaction or action could be that he just kills the perpetrator. So there is violence in both levels, in both the actions. So my point of view would be yes, we are adding peace education as a subject in the curriculum, but we make a professional mental health care worker in every school for counseling, and everything should be accessible to students, parents of these students. That's again very important because they are obviously, parents are all the time worried because why is my son or daughter not focusing on his grades are going down, or it could be at any level, at any socioeconomic level, any country. So it does not depend where you are based. So accessibility to professional help in terms of a psychologist in school is very important, I feel, in all schools, colleges, universities, everywhere. And not just for students to reach out to, it could be for parents as well, because finally if the parents are not able to provide a safe environment or an understanding environment for the student, for the child, he cannot excel in education anyway. And most governments actually across the globe, you would find that, we are focusing on education a lot because we know the value and significance that education and progress has. It's directly related. But yes, we are teaching them, or we can add peace and nonviolence education to Mahatma Gandhi's concept of nonviolence, or Gautam Buddha's concept of nonviolence, and we can make them read that. But again, they need to be responsible for their actions when they go outside. It's not just about this. So that behavioral change will only happen when they have a professional to help with, with their everyday situations. Could be really, and violence is not just towards the student. The student can also be a bully, or it can be verbal, non-verbal, it can be physical, or, it could be, violence can be in any form. So, and I think the non-verbal and the verbal violence is impacting our mental health in a big way. And mental health, if we apply, let's say, for example, I give a hypothetical scenario where we're doing weekly sessions with a psychologist in schools, colleges, with each student, like we have an English class or like we have a sports class in the curriculum, included in the curriculum. We should have a session with a psychologist every week. And whatever they're facing, there are times which I could probably, as a teenager or a younger kid, I couldn't have told even my mother. Maybe I thought that she wouldn't understand, So I would just bottle it up, and then it could lead to a deeper problem, a mental health issue. And then my personality could change, or my behavior could change just based on these little emotions and these thoughts that kind of get so complex within us. So my point of view would be, every country, whether you're a developing country, developed country, rural, urban, city, socioeconomic strata, does not matter. The government has to promote. It has to be government subsidized so that everyone can access it. It cannot be something so expensive that no one can access it. And it is a big deal, Then what happens is that when you're making it government subsidized, or I would prefer free of cost, but then government subsidized, then you're getting the help from a profession. So you're not digressing from the requirement at that point in time, and you're able to diagnose any mental health issues, depression, or anything that you're going through. That is diagnosed at the right time. It can be prevented. Therefore, that action and that whatever violence could have been towards myself or towards another person can be prevented proactively. So if it becomes a weekly session, the parents can learn how to handle their kids. Parents can know that, oh, my child is safe in school or college or wherever he or she is. And teachers also face a lot of could be facing mental health issues as well, and feeling bullied or work-wise, work culture-wise, because they are also under it's a high-pressure job they're doing. A child is also doing a high-pressure job of being a student, right? And performing the best of his ability. Parents are doing a high-pressure job, handling their kids and the pandemic and working from home, doing so many things. We are all under so much pressure all the time that mental health has to be promoted and perpetuated at every level. It has to be a part of our life. It cannot be a separate issue. It is within us. It has to be a part of the educational system. Because teachers also need, when we say that, cops, let's say, for example, in the police, and they always have a counselor or a psychologist, a therapist, because they have a high pressure job. So I think every individual needs that. And when we make it within the framework of the educational system, then what happens is the whole stigma in a lot of countries and societies going for reaching out to a professional for mental health issues like depression or PTSD or anything that I'm going through is stigmatized. So a lot of times, even if I have the money, I won't go because people will call me crazy. Oh, she's crazy. But then if it's a part of the curriculum, if it's a part of the educational system, then it becomes a norm. It becomes a usual way of lifestyle. So my request would be that if we are striving for a healthier lifestyle, a more peaceful external environment, while there is no mental peace, we're only looking outwards for peace and nonviolence, and we're not looking inwards, and we're not looking at the injustice that we are doing to ourselves. Like I've heard of such ghastly stories. Like a lot of times we think that, you know, the economic background probably plays a role. Maybe the parents were did not bring up the child correctly, or, you know, in a way he sees so much violence at home. So, I mean, I think that's where we need to start. We need to do it a two-layered approach where we not just look outwards, but we also seek this truth and peace inwards as well. And yes, of course, when we are saying that, you know, we're doing yoga, we're doing meditation, we're doing a lot of spiritual, you know, things to make ourselves more peaceful, that's great. But yes, include mental health, professional mental health care workers, a professional mental health care plan in the education system. That would bring a peaceful, non-violent world to all of us. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you so much, Saroni, for your insights. And I do agree that self-esteem plays a big role, you know, in keeping you know, people off the streets and promoting non-violence. Let us move on now to our next speaker. She has a master's degree in comparative public policy and is a social communicator. Our soul sister, Lorena Julio. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. I feel super happy being here for the third time in the Women Economic Forum. The first time was in Delhi, second last year in Colombia, and now in Bangalore. So I'm extremely happy. This time I'm gonna share a different point of view because I will share with you two different experiences. In one hand, of course, I'm the co-founder and director of Fundación Comparlante, a non-profit organization that promotes the rights and the development of people with disabilities in Latin America. You know, in Latin America, there are 85 million people with disabilities, and they suffer exclusion and invisibilities due to the barriers that they face every day. Exclusion and discrimination. So 2 years ago, I had the chance to meet in India, in Kerala, Raja Gopal, and there I get to know about Jai Jagat. So this conversation is gonna be focused on Jai Jagat. Jai Jagat is a global peace campaign in the framework of the 150th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. This global peace campaign has 4 pillars. The first one is eradication of poverty. The second is action against climate change. The third is eradication of discrimination. And the last, of course, is promoting non-violence and peace regarding the Gandhian values. So the main action of this global movement is a march from Delhi to Geneva. So last year, the 2nd of October, on the Gandhi's anniversary, a march from Delhi started to from Delhi to Geneva, to the headquarters of the United Nations. Why we walk from Delhi to the United Nations? To bring solutions. No? Mainly, the point was to share good practices, best practices that we are all implemented locally that can be a solution globally. So when the march started last year, we walk daily around 25 kilometers. First in India, the first 3 months, we walk in India, day by day, visiting different organizations, civil society organizations, startups, and of course, schools. Because one of the main point of this march was to sensitize the society and also to make all them part of the global movement regarding the promotion and peace and non-violence. So I joined the march this year. I walked in India for a long period of time. It was a great experience. And let's say one of my duties there was to talk in each school, that in every city or small town that we went through, we stop at the school and we talk to the children and we present peace clubs. So as Sarah said, that's already something which is needed in all our schools, not only in India. Of course, you have you're lucky because Gandhi is from India, but we all need the Gandhian values. So while walking, we talk to children, we invite them to start a peace club. So what is this peace club about? The main idea of the peace club is to have a space to talk freely about different issues. You know, could be in India, one of the main topics that these children bring to us was discrimination. Well, sexual abuse was one of the topics that these little children are really concerned about. Bullying, of course, but also the Jai Jagar pillars. They know about climate change. They know what is happening around us. You know, they know that it's important to develop. For example, I remember in Barda, we make an awareness campaign regarding to trash management. How to separate, you know, our trash. You know, they say, okay, we have different trash box, trash bins, the blue and the green, but no one knows how to separate. Okay, so let's do an online campaign to create awareness on trash management. And this looks like a small action, but actually, if we do all implement it, it can have a huge impact, you know? So we told them, okay, you need to meet people who also wants to be part of this peace club. You should choose a leader or different leaders, one leader for each course. Yeah, please, also, you need to have a teacher who act as a guide, you know, as a bridge between the authorities in the school and the students. You need to have like regular meetings, and of course, write down some documents, no, about your actions, because what you are doing here in India can be an inspiration in a different part of the world. Why I was saying that because Jai Jagar has a newsletter which is developed in Geneva, and every time I told this to the kids, they say, oh, if I write something, you are going to print it and you are going to send it to Geneva. So the main idea of being global, you know, of being part of a global community, because that is what is Jai Jagat about. It's about a global community promoting peace and non-violence. So that was beautiful. It was a great experience. We get to know really inspiring movements and local positive actions, you know, what you say the government should do, but we also should do as a citizens. We have the responsibility to promote this within our families, you know, within our neighbors. what can we do to promote this? And as Gandhi says, like, you first need to, the change came from within, you know, you need to like experience the change yourself, and then you can promote peace around you. So unfortunately, due to the coronavirus, the march was stopped in Armenia. We walked from India to Armenia. It was supposed to be like 10 countries, 100,000 kilometers walking in a 1 year walk. From India to Geneva, 1 year walking. But due to the lockdown, we stopped the march. We keep doing this online. The activities keep moving, but the reality is the march as the main activity was stopped. So I came back to Argentina to restart working in my organization, and I decided, okay, how can I implement that I learned in India at the Jai Jagar movement? How can I implement this in our communities, in our societies, in Latin America, adapting, of course, to this reality, no? Because it's a different culture. And that's why we launched a contest for kids, a literacy contest for kids from 6 to 13 years old. As I already told you, I work with people with disabilities. So we understand that art, that literacy is a powerful tool to sensitize. And of course, kids are the best teachers for adults. You know, if I say to you, oh, you are discriminating a person with disability, that can be rude. But if children came to you and say in a soft way, let's behave different. This is not good. This is discrimination. You are blocking the ramp. That's not okay. The impact is quite different. So we designed this contest. We provide the kids 3 different characters. It's like a cartoon, 3 different characters. There's a girl with cerebral paralysis. There's a boy with autism and a girl with an amputation. So kids should write a short story to participate in our program. So the first edition was 3 years ago, in 2017, and children for 5 different countries participate. And this year, which is the second edition of My World, My Way, that's the name of the program, we already have participation for kids from 7 different countries, including Spain. So for us, it's a big step because we already are in Europe also. You know, it's a Spanish speaker activity. Sorry, I will next time we will include all your languages, or at least Hindi and English. But it's amazing the impact of this action, because we have parents. You know, in the first edition, we worked closely with schools. We went to school, we present the program, we talk to teachers. But in this occasion, it's different because we are under the lockdown. So we use the social media as a tool to reach all these families, to reach all these kids. So in this opportunity, I feel that the parents' role was more important, no? Of course, we try to work with the schools. It's amazing because the families, the school, the whole community is involved in the program. So we are thinking, okay, this is a program for kids, but actually not. The impact is in the communities. So that's the experience that I wanted to share with you today. I agree with Rory, it's not easy to talk about peace, promotion of peace through education in 10 minutes or even 1 day or 1 month, but the main idea is to start talking. You know, yes. What I feel working with people with disabilities, sometimes they feel like they are invisible. no?
Yes.
So start talking. It's a huge step. Last week, I was giving also a conference in India, and we were talking about a case of a woman who was raped, and she is deaf, and she couldn't ask for help because at the police station there's no one who knows sign language, and also at the hospital. And do you know that 20 million people in India are deaf? 20 million, you know? So of course, it's quite difficult to save all of them, but
Yes.
we should at least be aware of this reality, you know, make visible the invisible. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm really, really grateful for this space here at the Women Economic Forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lorena, for sharing your experiences, and especially about our own country. It's really an eye-opener, and I will definitely look up this program, what you were talking about. Thank you so much. And now it is our time to honor you both from our side. And thank you so much for being with us. So I would like to announce this award from the side of Women's Economic Forum. And we would like to confer on Saroni Roy and Lorena Julio the iconic Women's Award for creating a better world for all of us. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
The soft copies for both for these will be with you in a week's time. So please be patient. And I think we're running out of time. So I don't think we'll have any time for questions.
Thank you so much, Lorena. We'll like connect, and we'll go forward with promoting peace and non-violence.
Please, let's work together.
Yes, and I've learned so much, self-esteem, psychologist, I think it's really important to start from the ground, like you said, up, we can't save all, like Lorena said.
Making mental health and really accessible to everyone.
Correct. Thank you so much, ladies. So now we need to start our next session. So you need to leave the room so that the next session can start. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Bye.
Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great.
I'm just trying to see if Yaneer is connecting so we can start the meeting.
Sure.
Start the session immediately.
Great.
Very impressive young lady.
Thank you very much.
Can you just correct me if my pronunciation is correct for your name? Kekasha?
Kehekasha.
Kekasha.
Yes, there's an emphasis on the H and the N is silent.
Okay, thank you. Kekasha. I'm just waiting to see if Yaneer is okay. Just give her a minute.
Sure. I wanted to ask, is it possible for me to share my screen?
No, we won't be able to do any screen sharing.
Okay.
Time is very short also, so it's a 12-minute session, and at the 11th minute I would give you a bell so that you have to wrap up in 1 minute.
Sure, cool. So I said 12-minute session, you mean like 12 minutes each, right?
Yes, 12 minutes each, absolutely.
All right, yeah, no, if everyone was like, wait, quiet.
No, not at all. We are interested in listening to you. I'm just seeing, she's going to go first, but in case she's not able to join, we'll start with you.
Sure.
Yeah, I think
she's back.
She's connecting to audio.
Great.
In fact, I've just asked my son to read up about you. He's in the US.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, let me see.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Great, great. We were just waiting for you.
Yeah, well, I was connected, but I mean, let me see with the. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, I think we're good. Should we start?
Can you hear me good?
Yes, we can hear you really well.
And you can see me?
Yes.
Not very good, no?
We can see you.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Okay. So welcome to the Women's Economic Forum Bangalore 2020. I'm Anjana Gupta Paul, your moderator for parallel session on the subject, Innovation and Sustainability, a Novel Approach. We are honored to have with us Yeneer Brana and Kekasha Basu to share their views. Before we start, some ground rules. Each speaker will get 12 minutes to speak. At the 11th minute, I will ring a bell to alert you to wrap up. If we have time at the end, we will take some questions. So without any delay, let me introduce the first speaker. She is the founder and CEO of the Met Community, a non-profit organization that supports and promotes women entrepreneurship. And she manages a team of 60 people spread over 10 countries. Please welcome Yeneer Brana, Innovation and Sustainability, a Novel Approach. Yeneer.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your introduction. So I don't know if I can share the screen now or later.
There is no share screening allowed, Yeneer.
Okay, sorry. So we introduction all of us, or just me and I start?
Yes, please start. Thank you. I'll introduce her later.
Okay, perfect. So as you said, I've been working in innovation and sustainability for so many years. I'm originally from Europe, but I live in United States and I work in Latin America. So I also teach in Georgetown in gender and sustainability. So what I saw is in these last few months, there is now internationally a higher importance, and people are aware about the importance of not only innovation, that it always was important, but also sustainability. And this is especially important for our women entrepreneurs, and with a gender, considering a gender approach. By analyzing data, case studies, and reports, we can realize that there is an interconnected dimensions of gender, sustainability, and livelihoods, and the women's importance and multiple roles in overcoming the challenges of security and livelihoods based on the sustainable use of natural resources. So basically, the most of the let's say beneficiaries or the community, the vulnerable communities, when we have a pandemic like as we had now, these vulnerable communities are more vulnerable than ever. That is especially important when we talk about sustainability. We need to consider that sustainability is not something new. Now it's very important at this moment, but it's not something that is recent. This started in more than 200 years ago in Germany. And the term of sustainability was first used in 1713 by a German. It was used like in the Second War, and it was basically the approach. It was to aim the forest management, and optimization was to achieve the greatest possible world harvest. Sustainability, it was more like an approach related to the forest, let's say. After a few years, there were like women, very important women, like the Brundtland, Gro Harlem Brundtland, that it was the former prime minister of Norway, that uh, she worked on creating a sustainable development approach and a sustainable development report. And this was many years ago. And the most recent theory or approach about sustainability is obviously when we talk about the SDG. The SDG that was started in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, the Sustainable Development Goals approach was started when in 178 countries adopted the Agenda 21. And after that, started a series of meetings like the Johannesburg Declaration, the United Nations Conference, and the recent report and the recent approach. The most recent was when the UN signed the Sustainable Development Summit and completed the Sustainable Development Summit in 2015. So it's not new, but has been reviewed many times. And now we are including the three perspectives of the sustainability, which is the threefold approach that includes the social approach, the environmental approach, and economic approach. When we talk about social sustainability, we are talking about addressing the ability of social systems to perform defined level of social and well-being for the people, and is more focuses on relating individuals' behavior to attitudes and well-being. When we talk about the environmental approach, we are talking about how to promote the responsible use of natural resources, how to use thinking on the future, how to use our forests thinking on the future, how to ensure healthy life and for future generations. There are many ways to enhancing ecosystem services and reducing negative human impact. But I think that now with what happened recently, all the economic businesses around the environment and the communities are now especially relevant to take a renewed approach of the environmental sustainability. In this case, there are like a lot of businesses that has been affected and has been and are working on renew their mission to be sure that a lot of companies that they were not included in this perspective, the environmental perspective, they're now aware about the importance of that. And finally is the economic sustainability, focus on long-term profitability and economic production by encouraging the responsible use of resources. In all these three dimensions, threefold approach, the role of women is especially relevant. It's especially relevant not because we are the beneficiaries of the most affected community, but also because we can be also the key stakeholders working on that. And we see a lot of actually our nonprofit that is working with women around the globe. We see that women, they are now leading, not only in politics, that we have some women that they are doing an amazing job in the last period, but also in the business world, which is, I think, is especially relevant. That is especially linked to our economy recovering. But we have to consider there is a big gender gap. We need to understand also the context and the data of this gender gap. And we also need to know that in general, except certain countries because of certain reasons, the life expectancy is, so women, we have like a higher life expectancy. So which means that now with this pandemic, with this COVID, the most affected communities not only are women entrepreneurs and women like in agriculture business, but also all women that, as I said before, whose life expectancy is higher than men. And we see a lot of women that they maybe some of them they never work, and now they have to consider working and including the sustainability in their business. And this is because in general disasters strike hardest at the poorest communities, and within them groups who suffer marginalization and discrimination are always the most vulnerable. Disasters affects for sure women and men in a very different ways. Women have been estimated to be 7 times more likely than men to die in disasters. And now that we see a lot of single moms that they have to take care not only of the business but also of the family, and they are very affected, and not only within the business but also within the family. And not only that, but also they are also less, they receive less aid in general than men. For that reason, there is a higher risk of reinforcing there is a risk of reinforcing gender inequalities. Women are more likely to be responsible for food and for water provision, for the care and for emotional work within the household, and for the protection for the families during the disasters. And finally, I will say that women resilience and capabilities to care for their children and family members, being engaged in multiple activities and tasks in the productive, reproductive, and community are very relevant. For that reason, I will say that it's not everything negative, but we have to consider the power of women to work and to incorporate a new perspective, a new approach in the recovering of the business, a new sustainable approach for the recovering of the business. So in that sense, I would say that a gender-oriented analysis is crucial to get a better understanding, not only of the sustainability and the impact and innovation in business, but also of local and global processes impacting people's livelihood. The 2030 Agenda and SDG incorporates a gender analysis not only through the SDG, the fifth, the number, but also among the rest of the SDGs. And as a result, many gender issues are clearly articulated in the non-gender goals. So I think that I'm pretty optimistic, let's say, that we can have now a great opportunity to incorporate a gender approach and to work to improve and to reconnect the businesses with these 3 layers approach, which is the economic, the environmental, and the social approach, but also I will say with a gender approach, when where women, not only we play a key role in the businesses that we are playing. I see a lot of women now working in renewable energy and doing like amazing things, and I see a lot of small businesses led by women, that they are including. We are by nature more social, so we need to work more on being more innovative, and the use of technology in this case is key. So I will incorporate finally a final comment, which is not only working together men and women, but also working together different countries and different perspectives. So as I said, and as I mentioned before, I'm originally from Europe. I live in Washington, D.C., and now in D.C., that's why it's super dark, because here is very early today now. But I work in Latin America. Now with this pandemic, the world is opening a new world, and as we see that we can know, all of us creating business with people from different countries, different backgrounds, working from people from India, from Africa, from Asia, working together, sharing the same commitment, the same approach, the same concerns, and with a focus on generating an impact with a genderless sense. So finally, I will say that it's important to incorporate a gender lens and perspective to get finance, and for impact investing. We need also to work with the funds, with the financial institutions, to not only be more committed, but also to be sure that there are funds available to promote this kind of new approach based on innovation, sustainability, and gender. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Yanir, for those interesting insights.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is a 19-year-old trailblazer, award-winning, iconic youth leader, an environmentalist, a champion of children's rights, a TEDx speaker, a peace and sustainability campaigner. Let's welcome Kekashan Basu.
Thank you so much, and I'm very happy to be here today. As was just mentioned, my name is Kekasha. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I'm a United Nations human rights champion and the founder president of Green Hope Foundation, and I'm also the winner of the 2016 International Children's Peace Prize. Now, my journey has always had innovation intertwined with sustainable development. My journey started about 12 years ago when I saw the image of a dead bird with its belly full of plastic, and my 7-year-old brain went numb at the thought of the agony the bird must have gone through before it died. And I decided that I had to do something to stop that from happening again, which is why I decided to go out in my neighborhood to the beauty salons, shops, restaurants, talking to them about the need to move towards sustainable practices. And I worked tirelessly on the ground for about 3 years, especially with the children who were at that time my peers. And I got selected to represent my country at the United Nations when I was 11. And when I was 12, I attended the Rio +20 Earth Summit in Brazil. And out of the 50,000 delegates that were present there, I was the youngest at 12 years old. And I really did not like that and this lack of inclusivity, because it was our future that was being decided but by others, and we weren't even part of the discussion. So I decided that when I returned home, I would start Green Hope Foundation, a global social innovation enterprise to provide children and youth with the platform to learn about sustainability challenges and then how to take actions to mitigate these problems. And we use the innovation to drive sustainability at all levels, whether it's government, private sector, and civil society, and with the 3 pillars of sustainable development: the economy, society, and the environment. And basically to ensure that young people and children especially are at the forefront of driving change in the sustainable development agenda. Now, our whole agenda is centered around the 5 Ps of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are people, planet, partnership, peace, and prosperity. And we work extensively on implementing the Sustainable Development Goals at the ground level, especially because we had been involved in every aspect of the build-up towards the Sustainable Development Goals adoption, from Rio +20 to the intergovernmental negotiations to the open working groups, and finally at the 70th UN General Assembly when the goals were actually adopted at the UN Sustainable Development Summit. So our main mandate is following the SDGs mandate of leaving no one behind to achieve a life of dignity for all, for people, planet, and prosperity. And since we work globally, we focus on all of the SDGs, since all of them have some kind of impact on young people. And we use education for sustainable development as a transformative tool to engage and educate children and youth across the world, especially children in marginalized communities. And we do this through STEM education, through science, technology, engineering, and math, but also through art and relating that to the environment. And one of the most innovative ways that we use to spread awareness and communicate with our children is through our environment academies, which is an advocacy tool that we developed, which are conferences and workshops conducted by children for children. And we in our academies are not just about talking to people. Since our work is global, We work with children, especially in marginalized communities who've never had access to formal education and hence don't know how to read and write. We use creative modes of communication like art in the form of art workshops and art competitions, dance, music. Green Hope has its own band, so we sing, rap, beatbox, play different instruments, compose our own music. We use drama, where the children write their own skits and then perform them for their peers. Even sport as a way to bridge the gap between people and allow the children to have fun and learn at the same time. And we do this through football and cricket. When I was 11, I wrote a book called The Tree of Hope, which follows the story of a young girl who turns her desert into a green oasis. And that was my way of communicating my feelings through writing, especially to my fellow children at the time. So through all of our innovation, we've conducted over 165 academies in 25 countries so far, and we've directly empowered over 80,000 young people globally. And grassroots level action is our mantra. So armed with the knowledge and the innovation at our academies, our members venture out into their own zones of influence and take actions in their own local communities and in their own zones of influence. And through all of our actions, we seek to tackle inequality and promote inclusivity. Some of the most vulnerable communities that we work in, whether it's in the Syrian refugee camp on the Lebanon-Syria border, where we saw how horrific the conditions were, but using art and music and rap, we were able to allow the children to have fun for the first time in a very long time. Or whether it's with the children of prisoners in Kathmandu in Nepal, where despite the circumstances that they lived in, they still had a bright outlook for the future of not just for themselves, but for their fellow children as well. At the home for HIV positive children in Nepal, or even in Kutupalong, the world's largest refugee camp on the Myanmar-Bangladesh border, where the children actually didn't know how to read and write, and we used art and music to communicate with them. All of these vindicated our belief that children especially have that instinctive love for nature and the environment and for trying to achieve a better world for others. And through our innovative methods of communication and our academies, we were able to provide them with the tools that allowed them to become agents of change in their own zones of influence. And whether it's in Bali or in Kenya or in Suriname or in Kuala Lumpur, the marginalized and vulnerable communities that we've worked in there, they too have vindicated that same belief of ours that in every child and in every person lies a change maker. All they need is that innovative tool to push them towards making a difference. And all of this innovation, it's not just through just one organization moving forward. Partnerships for the SDGs, which is goal 17, is so crucial. So at Green Hope, we work and partner with several organizations such as the Green Belt Movement, Wangari Maathai's organization, Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots, the World Bank's Climate Change Initiative, the Youth Parliament of Suriname, which is actually the world's most forested country, the Toronto District School Board, which is Canada's largest district school board, and most recently, our 15th and 16th chapters in Vietnam and in Liberia. Now, our work is extremely ground level, and you can probably see that from my background as well. But now the COVID-19 pandemic came about, and we had to come up with other innovative ways of spreading our advocacy and reaching out and getting expert knowledge to civil society, especially to children. So the COVID-19 pandemic has actually rendered Green Hope extremely busy with our advocacy going fully digital and bringing together parliamentarians, thought leaders, policymakers, and civil society stakeholders in dialogues that just chart the course of recovery and assist in the process of building back better. So we've been able to reach out to over 10,000 young people all across the world just through our sustainability workshops for children in India, UAE, Canada, and South Africa. And we've conducted 11 webinars so far on various themes, from the COVID impact on the SDGs to how we can actually build back better in terms of economy, society, and environment. And we've been able to reach out to 15,000 people from civil society. And we've had so many amazing people who are at the forefront of this movement, from the former president of Ireland, Mary Robinson, to the former president of the UN General Assembly, to faith leaders, to people who've dedicated their entire lives to ensuring that children and the vulnerable are able to be at the forefront of sustainable development. And last week, I represented the Americas and spoke at a virtual roundtable with Procter & Gamble CEO and other international CEOs in a program where National Geographic and Procter & Gamble brought together youth climate leaders on the power of nature as a climate solution. But at the same time, with our advocacy continuing, we all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the deep inequalities and inadequacies in our society and our economy. And as we all know as well, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a much greater impact on the vulnerable and the marginalized communities, and specifically within them, women and girls. And this unequal impact is clearly visible in the projects that we have been conducting in places where the lockdown has been lifted slightly. One of these places is in Dhaka, Bangladesh, where we've been working with the vulnerable communities over there, with the women and the children. And our project, Together We Are Stronger, is working to alleviate the suffering brought about by COVID and thereafter the consequences of post-disaster management. And our objective is to build long-term resilience amongst these affected communities for current as well as future pandemics, in accordance with the SDGs mandate of leaving no one behind. Because we want those women and girls and the children there to be able to build back better in their own zones of influence. And we're achieving this objective through education, awareness about sanitation, implementing hygiene in their homes, providing resources like medicated soaps, gloves, SME, in partnership with SME producers. We're also allowing them to, the small businesses to grow and thrive, and at the same time help the women and girls in these vulnerable communities. And the last point that I'd like to make is that this year we're commemorating the 75th anniversary of the UN Charter in a very polarized world that is torn apart not just by conflict, but also by gross inequality. And the challenges that confront us are daunting, but not insurmountable. And we must ensure that we pool our resources and our wisdom and cut across all kinds of social and political barriers so as to accelerate the